A pleasure to be back. Yesterday was a good session. We already started the deep debates, and I told everyone just hang on, hang on. We'll have time to answer those questions as we get through the content of the program. And in case you didn't make it yesterday, there's no problem. That was just an introductory or a kickoff session that we wanted to have. The work begins today. So you have not missed anything. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's get straight to work. The tools of the trade. You need to have a notebook next to you. You need to have a pen next to you. Even if we're sending notes and materials and tools for your memory purposes, please have a notebook and pen that you can be able to use during the session. I encourage you to write down the thought or ideas or some of the things that strike you, because you are busy people. You are all over the world doing so many different amazing things. And it's very easy to attend this session and then, oh, what did he say that was, what did they say that was, and it's gone. Okay, in as much as, yes, we may have some extra sessions along the way in case you miss that you can be able to join in, it's still insufficient if we are unable to capture the thoughts, the ideas in a notebook that's going to help you with a pen next to you. That's a really good way to keep record of what we're going to go through. So do feel free to participate in that way. During the session, ladies and gentlemen, I love to be interrupted. So if there's something that has caught your attention and you would like a response on it, kindly just raise your hand. There's a button either at the bottom or the top of your screen that says raise hand. And if not, it is good. There are other, you can be able to find it in that menu bar and be able to raise hand, so I'll be able to see it. If not, you can go to the participants, and in that participant space over yourself, you can be able to just raise your hand there, and I'll see it and call you out, and we can have a discussion around it. We'll also be using the chat box. So the chat box is also a great place to get some of the responses that we have, and I can see people have already started responding and participating in that. Meron, thank you so much for that message. Thank you, and we'll love to be part of this session. Good. I appreciate that initial good attitude towards the discussion we're going to have as well. Welcome. So it's great for me also to be aware of who's in the room. So if you don't mind, if you can, just for my sake, so that I can know who is around and probably a representation of where you are in the world, kindly just type the city that you're in the chat box. This will properly test my my knowledge of geography in this area. So yes, type the city that you're in, and we'll be able to get across there. Thank you.
All right.
Thank
so
you
far,
for assisting
Ethiopia,
me.
Kampala.
Yeah. I can see people didn't want to test my geography, so they were saying the city and the country, which is very good.
Ethiopia,
Yes.
Sudan, Somalia. Wow, we have
Exactly.
all over.
So it's a good East African delegation so far. Excellent, excellent. Very good. And I know that even if you are in East Africa, it may not necessarily represent where you're from in the world. And so we'll try and make the examples and the discussions as universal as possible, but also respond to your questions as the time comes through. So excellent, good. I get a picture of who's in the room, and I appreciate that response, that quick response to my request as we go along. Our mission here at Centonomy, ladies and gentlemen, is to shift mindsets so that purposeful people can create wealth and live abundantly. I know that there are many poverty reduction programs in the world, but our mission is not just to reduce poverty, but to create wealth. And I think especially on this continent of Africa, this is the time to do so. We are the only growing continent on Earth. We are the continent with the greatest resources, both physical, natural, and human resources are sought after on this continent. And so now it is time for this continent to build wealth as it has done so in the past. I believe that most of the wealthiest people in history, in non-human history, have been in this continent. Some of the greatest architectural designs, some of the greatest engineering feats have been done on this continent. And so my faith is this, that we are now primed to generate wealth in this generation. So it is, it is time for us to begin to think of ourselves in that way. Purposeful people like yourself show up on time. They're here early. They're here before the time is required, and they're ready to get into that place. So you tick on purposeful people. Create wealth. We'll talk about wealth in this session. But the third part, and this is what is key to all of us, is to live abundantly. I assure you, there is no point to having all the money and resources in the world if it does not make your life and the lives of others better. And that is the abundant life. The abundant life is linked towards your personal goals and ambitions. So when somebody is saying, I'm saving, I'm investing, for what? And I often hear people say, for a rainy day, for a tough day. And what about the days that are not rainy? What about the days that you have plans to go out on a holiday and to see the world? Those are important. And those often are the ones that drive you. I save and invest so that my children can have a better future. What does that look like? So when we talk about the abundant life, for you, it must go beyond just money. Money and assets are simply the resources that facilitate or allow us to do the things that we want to do, including helping our family and our relatives, including improving our country, including improving our communities, including going forth and doing other things that deeply matter to us, even around our faith and other issues in our lives. So wealth is, and the assets and the money that we have simply facilitate an abundant life. So if you don't know what you want, it's difficult for us to have a discussion. And it is great for us to have that ambition and that drive to take us forward. So ladies and gentlemen, this is not a budgeting class. We'll talk about budgeting today, but for all of 15 minutes. The rest of this time that we're going to spend in this class is trying to get you to think differently, set specific goals, and go for them with everything that you've got. Because that's all we have. We have a life in which we are moving forward. Time is moving us forward. And so we need to be moving in a specific direction. And that's what I hope to encourage you. And the team here at Centonomy will be encouraging you to do over the next couple of weeks and months as we complete this program. So I hope you're ready for that journey. If you are, give me a thumbs up or a yes in the chat box. Let's get straight to work. I see that thumbs up. At least 2, 3, 4, 5 of us are ready. Good. 6. Hey, that is a quorum. We can do something. Edith is even shouting at me. Thank you, Edith. I appreciate you. So my question is, when you hear the word wealth, what comes to mind? So I'll take responses in whichever way you're comfortable to do so. You can raise your hand and I'll call you out, or you can type in the chat box. When you hear wealth, what does that mean to you? What does wealth mean to you? In the chat, or you can raise your hand and I'll call you out. What does wealth mean to you? Money. Yes, Lydia. At least you and I, we understand wealth means money. Okay, good. Joan or Joanne, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, either Joan or Joanne, is saying dollar signs. Not now, she's not even saying money, but a specific currency, dollar signs. Emily saying assets, right? Now I have to twist my tongue to say, I think it's Riath is saying riches, right? Those are many R's and L's, which are tough for the people where I come from. Chankworth, I think. Yes. Excellent. Possessions. Now, Meron has taken it further. Valuable financial assets or physical possessions, which can be converted to a form that can be used for transactions. Love it. Love it. Wealth means assets and sufficient living. Cash, assets, good. Lack of nothing we need to make life easy for people. Dorcas, I like it. Very good. So I want to ask a question. Who came in first? Lydia Wanjiko. Hi. Lydia, kindly switch on your mic if you don't mind for a second.
Yes, I don't mind.
Hi.
I don't mind. Hi, Waceke. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How much money will make you wealthy?
The money that will make me wealthy, the money that I'm able to cater for my basic, my holidays, and
Holidays where?
plan for my future, within and outside.
Within and outside. So it
Yeah.
has to be able to take care of your basic. What is your basic?
My basic, my basic is it's good money.
Huh? Okay, you try to say that number. That's okay. I don't mind. I was trying to understand what basic is. So it needs to take
Shelter,
care of that. Yes, the things that
the shelter, the food.
but you're used to shelter in a certain kind of environment, correct? It's not just basic shelter, yes?
Not the basic is exactly the standard basic.
Which is what?
Good basic, good
Describe the
basic.
shelter. Describe the shelter.
Good living in a good place.
Which is a good place? Give me an example of a good place.
Where security is good, Runda.
You see, now you named the place. Why did I push you to do that? Because very often with our personal financial management, thank you so much, allowing me, Lydia, to give you a hard time. I appreciate that. But very often with our personal finance, we're very, very vague. We are not specific, and therefore we cannot make a plan. So when somebody says, I would like to have a nice living, a nice home to live in, that means nothing. I got Lydia to state where that home is. And because she stated where that home is, suddenly it became very clear that the investment required to live in that place is anywhere from $500,000 and above. Just simply by describing the space in which she wanted to live. If she wants to own a home in that area, it's one of the suburbs here in Nairobi. If she wants to live in that suburb, then her plan must include a $500,000 plus house. So when we start talking about the basics, food, medicine, not all food is basic, ladies and gentlemen. You're used to eating a certain type of food, certain variety of food, taking your children to certain schools, to driving certain cars or using certain types of transport, living in certain areas. So it is not basic. It is specific. And so if there's anything you're going to take away from this class, write this down. We must have specific goals in order to build the wealth that we require. Specific. Be clear. Because, and we're going to talk about this in the financial planning session, if I'm planning to take my children to a university in Europe, or I'm planning to take my children to a local college down the road, those are completely different goals. They're completely different. The amount of saving, effort, investment to go to one of those top schools in Europe or in the US, Ivy League schools, the Oxfords and the Cambridges of this world, cost so much more than the local college. Now, both of those are colleges, but are they the ones that you want to go to? And so if you're making a plan, be specific. If you're looking for a house, be specific. If you want to get out of debt, write the debt down and be specific. The generalness of I want to be rich means nothing. That's why my first question here to Lydia was, how much? Because we'll put down a number. And if you see that number, then your efforts have to change. And that is the key. We think that, oh, you know, when I started working, I was just saving maybe $50 every month. Sometimes I save, sometimes I don't. Some of us, we put something into our pensions. We just kind of put a little bit into our pensions because we don't know what the outcome of that pension is going to be. And if we actually saw the outcome, we were working together with the Retirement Benefits Authority here in Kenya, and they were talking about, and Kenya is a good picture of the East African region. They were talking about for most employees, their pension will cater for about 30% of their needs when in retirement. So the question to you, employees just like me, is what will cater for the other 70% plus? because we're not being specific. So we kind of just do, we kind of save. For what? I don't know. I'm saving. I don't know. I'm investing. For what? I don't know. For a better life in future. What better life? We don't know. How much will it provide? What is the target goal? We don't know. And because we're not being specific, then it is impossible to plan. And therefore, we want you guys to put this down as a definition. I'm not saying your definition is wrong. I'm simply saying this will help us to build our specificity into our plan. So wealth, as far as we're concerned, the ability to live the lifestyle that you want without having to work. So let me break that down into two. The first part, the ability to live the lifestyle that you want. You must be specific. For Lydia, it is a home in Runda. And if she's living in Runda, there's not much public transport around there, and therefore she must be driving. And then she'll be clear about the kind of car that she needs, the kind of transport costs that are going to go into that, the kind of schools that she's going to go, the kind of clubs that she wants to be a member of. She must be specific. So what do you want? So people say, I want to be rich. How much? Ladies and gentlemen, just give me a thumbs up or kind of just tell me what your thought is. Right now, many of your relatives think you're rich. Don't they call you when they're in trouble? Isn't that true? Yeah? Yeah. But for you, you may be saying, I'm not quite there yet. So do you see that it's relative? And therefore, if it is relative, you must define it for yourself. What does that mean for you? Because that will drive you towards your goals. So they're looking at you and saying they would love to be like you, but you are looking at yourself and saying, I want more. So how much more and how are we going to get there? If we are not specific about what we want, then you're saving for nothing, you're investing for nothing, we cannot help one another. So let's become clear. When you say a comfortable retirement, put a number. My retirement income should be $2,000 a month. That is a goal. Because if I'm paid $2,000 a month from my retirement benefits, then that means it will pay for my lifestyle, allow me to travel, allow me to do you see what I'm saying? We are being specific. And the second half is without having to work. Now, you will have to work very hard to get to this point. So please don't go and misquote me. I've heard people say after a Centonomy class, that guy said that we don't have to work. No. We have to work very hard to get to this point. But let me illustrate what I mean. I mean that you have sufficient assets. I saw that in the responses that I got. Assets, and those assets are the ones that then fund your lifestyle. They put money in your pocket. I don't know about you, but that sounds like financial freedom to me. When my assets can sustain my life without my direct input, at least on a daily basis. That sounds like financial freedom. And the thing about it, ladies and gentlemen, for us who are employees, is right now our lifestyle is funded by our work. And that work, ladies and gentlemen, should fund our lifestyle, but also fund our future. We should be earning and investing not just in the present, but in the future, so that that money that we're earning today will take care of us, that it will have built up so much momentum that it can start repaying at the level that we need. And that's what we're aiming for as we go through this program. So we're going to talk about wealth creation and our relationship with money. We're going to talk about our financial status and our net worth. That's what we're going to focus on today. In the next session, which is next month, we'll talk about debt and financial planning in the next month. And then finally, we'll get into the investment section. So that's the flow of what we're going to go through. So please do follow along and make sure that you attend each one of the sessions. They matter, because if you do not attend this session, then you don't find where the money is to repay your debts and to start investing and to start saving and to do all the things that we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. That's it. Yes. Hamid, yes, that is correct. We should move from working for money to money working for us. That is it. But it is to use the money we are working for today. If we do not manage it and invest it, Hamid, for the future, if we do not manage it, it's very easy for us to eat it all today. And then the future has to take care of itself. So let's have a small discussion. Let's do a small case study even as we go forward. So John is a senior manager in a multinational. I think you might know John, right? With the kind of job and title that opens big doors. He's well respected amongst his colleagues and friends and family. He earns a net income of about $5,000, 500,000 shillings, give or take. And he's bought a house in a high income area. Hey, he's Lydia's neighbor in Runda. Runda is one of those high income areas, yes? And his neighborhood, and he drives a car befitting his status. I'm sure you can imagine the kind of car that Lydia and her neighbor John drive, right? His job is extremely demanding, and he rarely has time to pursue other interests. He's currently considering accepting another job offer where he'll earn $6,200 per month. After living expenses, school fees, entertainment, and debt repayments, John is able to save about 100,000 shillings, which is about $1,000 per month. He has invested in land, shares, and his portfolio is worth about 5 million shillings, $50,000 or so far. He believes that in the next 5 years, he'll be able to use his skills, his experience, and network that he has acquired to go into consultancy for himself. So he has ambitions for the future. Let's look at somebody else in the environment. Nyambura here delivers meals to John's office. I think you might have seen Nyambura about your offices somewhere as you go. A year ago, she was working as a driver, earning a net income of about 15,000 shillings, which is about $150 per month. But she got retrenched. She started on a small scale, but now she's currently servicing 2 buildings and employed an assistant. So she sells mandazis, which are like donut kind of material every day. And she currently has 20 lunch orders. And she wakes up early and cooks from her house. She makes a daily income of about 6,000 shillings, $60 a day, and is able to retain about $40 after costs. Every month, her business gives her about $600 after costs, and she's able to save about $400 after her personal expenses. She has now saved up around $4,000, and she's going to spend $3,000 of this to buy a piece of land up country and start chicken rearing. Her brother who lives there will run that business, and she expects to make about $200 per month after all costs. So let's discuss these 2 individuals, the pros and cons of each one of them. Let's talk about John, because maybe you might know John a bit better than you do Nyambura. Hands up, somebody tell me, what are the pros, or what do you see as the positives of John's life? Somebody just raise your hand. So I'd love to hear your voice. Tell me, what are the positives that you can see in John's life? There are many positives. We'll discuss the pros and cons. What do you see in John's life? Here, I'd love to hear your response, so you can raise your hand or just switch on your mic. We're few enough. I'll be able to say, okay, let's hear this person first before the others. We need to move as quickly as possible. It would be very helpful if we can do that. Emily, go ahead. Yes, talk to me.
I think John has a stable income.
Yes.
And he's able to save. He has been investing.
Yep.
Which I think is clear as well. And
yeah.
He also believes that he has a goal, or he has set a goal for himself as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I see from here.
Excellent. Perfect. You've captured it. Yes. Ochuo, you wanted to add something?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I see John has a very good income. And besides that, he's very ambitious. He is considering accepting another job offer, which will give him more money. He's investing in land, he's investing in shares, and I see him progressing well. That's what I see from him. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, can I hear some cons? What are some of the negatives that we can see in John's life? Some of the negatives. Hamid, do you want to add to that? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I can see that John is able to, after his expenses, to put money aside, that he invests in land. and share, and I mean, has a portfolio that is worth 50,000. But what I cannot see here is that money that he has put aside is generating revenue to him. Is he getting money out of that money that he has put aside? Unlike Nyambura, that has invested in business that is generating more money to him, John only has, a portfolio of investment, but I cannot see that this portfolio is generating money. And he's even planning to continue being a consultant after working several years. So which means that he will continue working to be looking for money. And that money he has put aside is not giving him more revenue. So the difference for me between John and Nyambura is making money out of his money, whereas John is just putting money aside. That's what I can see.
Great. Let me just see. I can see. Excellent. Thank you, Hamid, so much for that response. And I see. So Emily saying John is an employee while Nyambura is self-employed. Okay, that's true. That's the difference. To me, John is living comfortable life, but doesn't seem a balanced life. And I think that is the key, Isaac. Yes, he doesn't have time. And in fact, if he takes that next higher paying job, then it's going to be even more difficult, as you said, even to find the time. So there are some negatives that are there, but he has an income and he is saving. However, I wanted us to pay a close attention to that. And I think we've kind of gotten the picture of what was going on in John's life is that he has $50,000, right, in his investment portfolio. God forbid that he loses his job today and he doesn't have a job. $50,000 and his lifestyle is about $4,000 per month. How many months could he be able to survive? Maybe a year. And that's if he liquidated all his money. Isn't that so? And so John is he is living the life, right? He looks like he's living that life. But as you saw, I think that somebody said it's that balance. It's right on the balance. It's on the edge. If anything were to affect it, there are quite some difficulties that might check in. And so he needs to be aware of that. And I love that you saw that he needs to start making those actions as he's going forward. So a key part of this discussion is awareness. So it is positive that he has a high income. It's positive that he's saving, but is he saving sufficiently? What kind of investments is he making so that they're coming there? And then for the future, a lot of the future things are in his head. If you notice that, thinking about a job, thinking about consultancy, thinking. Now, thinking is good, but thinking needs to be followed by action, ladies and gentlemen. And I think that's where the difference is between the two of these people, is that John is thinking a lot. And many of us as employees, we tend to think. We think for long. Think. I'll do this. I will get there. I will do. When? So start taking action towards it. Okay? I know I'm already getting ahead. I'm getting higher than where I should be. But Nyambura, if you can see, she's taking action. So she is saving, but she's saving towards what? A plot and a chicken rearing business. There's a direction for what that's going on. I thought that's a difference that I was going to say. Okay, let's hear some positives about Nyambura. Somebody raise your hand. Tell me, what do you see positive about Nyambura? And you can just take them as quickly as possible. Yes, Emily, I saw that. She's saving quite significantly. Yeah. Anything else that is positive that you can see there? As quickly as possible. I'm not seeing a hand. There we go. Nyambura, Isaac says, can survive through all life's hustle. So she's beginning to build in some redundancy, isn't it? She has a support. She has a staff member who can do some of the, if she's unable to come, some of that work will be able to continue. Her brother is going to assist her with the business on the other. So she's building it in. Yes, she has a specific goal. Yes, that's right. And she's heading in that direction. Okay, so what are some of the cons of Nyambura's life? If you have a look at that, what are some of the things that you've noticed there that maybe are not as good as they could be? You can raise your hand or you can type in the chat box. I'll try and pick them as quickly as possible. What are some of the cons of Nyambura's life? I can see the assurance that her brother will... Okay, yes. Esther has picked up on... She's looking at her brother to run a... Ah, man. Marciela, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, and Esther have picked up on that. There is a risk in going with your brother, but think about it this way, ladies and gentlemen. I think sometimes we have a negative view of family business, but think about some of the communities around this world that have built great businesses around families. Think about the Indian community, especially, and the Indian community around the world, the Jewish community around the world. Those are family-owned businesses and they run well. So yes, she may be taking a risk, but hopefully he's running his own chicken business and is able to assist. So let's not beat Nyambura's brother down before we know his credentials. He probably can do it, but there's a risk in that. I love. Her revenue is based solely on, relatives in business. How pull her down? Yes, if he misuses the resources. Yes, so there is a risk. However, it is not a guaranteed risk. And I honestly believe family businesses work if you work them. And it's not just those communities. I've seen it across the board, even as she didn't buy any house for herself. Yes. So Hamid, we're going to talk about home ownership and begin to see what that looks like. She's also, yes, there's a work-life balance there issue, isn't it? So she needs to begin to think to do that. And she's, I think when you say she's not planning for retirement, maybe not as obviously, but remember when at the beginning of this session, we talked about that you would have assets that can generate wealth for you. So if she has a business, chicken business that's paying her some money, that's part of what that plan is. So maybe it's not as sophisticated or as good as we could have, but there could be some risk there. Agreed with you, Edith. Excellent thought about it. I think there's something that we may not have noticed. Did you notice that she has so her income is not as high as her lifestyle is at a very low level. And I don't think that's in my opinion, that's not always a positive thing, but it's under control. I also, if you noticed, she has increased her lifestyle cost, because remember prior to retrenchment, she was at $150. But now she's at $200 if you look at her lifestyle cost. So she has increased, but she has a bit more space. As I said, there's maybe a real push towards the saving and investing. So the saving and investing is taking care of her future, but she may not be investing sufficiently in her present or her current. And maybe that's the imbalance that we're talking about here. She could take a little bit more income, allow herself to have a bit more of a lifestyle in balance for the future. And I think that's where we can have a discussion around it. Excellent. Well done, ladies and gentlemen. How about you? Can you see yourselves clearly in these two examples, or are you completely different? And if you are different, how so? What is your current status? Because when we go through this session, that is the idea. We want you to do a self-assessment, to be able to say, where am I right now? Are you settled? Are you in a space in which your investments are not working for you, or they are? What is your current status? And that is a key part to what we're going to do, which is a self-assessment, all right? So as we go through this, make sure that yes, we're using case studies to bring in the awareness, but it's awareness not of John and Nyambura, but of yourself. Why we put this up is so that you can begin to think, am I like John and I'm thinking and not taking action? Am I like Nyambura and I'm putting things into place that are going to get me there? What is it? So I need you to be clear about that for yourself. As we have this discussion, it allows you to now build over and above that. So my sense, because you're the ones who told me a few minutes ago that your relatives look at you and think, oh, look how wealthy my cousin, my brother, my son, my uncle, my auntie, whoever you are to them, they see you working at WFP and they say, wow. So there's an image issue there. And sometimes there's a fight between this issue of image and wealth creation. And I wanted us to address that early on, because sometimes we're living up to an image and we're not building wealth. And my sense from the discussion that we had a couple of minutes ago is that without awareness, John could fall into that space. Please note, I didn't say he has fallen or that he must fall, but I said without awareness or self-awareness, John could easily fall into that category, isn't it, of image. And that's, you remember we asked about what kind of car do you imagine John is? Does that look like the car that came to mind for John? And if that is so, somebody who's concerned about wealth image over wealth creation, they spend more as they earn more. Now, before you get too distracted by the other points on the screen, I want to illustrate this for you so that you can understand. You are probably earning, for most of you, most of us in this room, you're probably earning a lot more today than you were when you started working. Correct? I will answer myself and say yes, okay? So, but why do you still often feel under pressure? It's because of this. Imagine this is your income, these are your expenses. So when you get your first job, right? So you move out of home, you start paying your own rent, transport, all those things. So the distance between your income and your expenses closes in, right? So you get a promotion or you get a better job. And so you move to a nicer place, get a car loan, start paying other things, and the gap remains the same. So you get another promotion, you get married, have children, and the gap remains the same. So you get another promotion, now so you're earning, some of you, significantly more than you are when you started earning, but ladies and gentlemen, you're still under financial pressure. Why? Why? Because you spend more as you earn more. You spend and save very little. I'm going to talk about that shortly. The instinct is to work to consume. You're working. You know, if you're like Waceke here in front of you, you have a new phone in your pocket. The new iPhone has just come out. And you start looking at it. This is a good phone, but where's the next iPhone? You're driving a nice car, but where's the next one? So that the drive to consume. I didn't say that it's a bad thing to upgrade your phone I'm just saying that's the direction that you're heading. Yeah. You have to work in order to eat. You're working for that lifestyle. Lifestyle starts off extravagant, but reduces over time, especially because it's driven by debt. And then when inflation kicks in, and you know what the world economy is like right now, isn't it? It can really knock you off that pedestal, right? Careless about time, because I'm thinking, one day I'll start investing. One day I'll go and open an account. One day I'll start that business. 20 years later. So we can look back and say, oh, I didn't do 20 years ago. Or we can say, what do I have now? And then last but not least, spending is driven by OPO, other people's opinions. So this is one of them that has always struck me. And I know I'm going to touch a few nerves. So I'm not trying to insult you or to say bad things. I'm trying to challenge the way we think, okay? So here in Africa, we often have a tradition, especially in Kenya, we've had that discussion in Uganda and a few other places, where there is a pressure, a social pressure, to build a house up country or where your community is from. Like to build a house there. You already have a house in the city in which you're living, but there's a pressure now to say, build a house there. And I've always wondered why. Because for most people, how often do you go to that house? Probably maybe once a year, right? So what is that house actually doing? And was that the traditional meaning of the house? The idea of building a house was that you have a home that you live in. So you have a home. It's just not in your traditional home. So who says that that's hey, don't beat the message. I'm just asking you a question. Who does that house benefit if you visit it once a year for Christmas or whatever other time that you visit it? So many times other people's opinion, the relatives can look, our daughter works for Wfp, right? World Food Program. Look at the house. Our son, look what they can do. For a whole year, they just look at our son. You put millions or thousands of dollars into the ground that is just sitting there and not growing and not giving you an outcome because other people say it's important, isn't it? Now, I didn't say don't build a house. I just said, and many people say, oh, but I'd like to retire and go and live there. No problem. But you're 25. When are you planning to retire? Hey, let me move on before I get into more trouble. So somebody is thinking about wealth and creating wealth is thinking about how to invest more as they earn more, to multiply and save the most. Their instinct is to increase. They're working to create what? Listen to what the words I'm saying, to create assets. And those assets are the ones that then fund their lifestyle. Financial freedom, which you've been talking about. The lifestyle starts off modest, but grows, and it grows. And so the idea is not just to remain at Nyambura's level, just like this, and continue to function at that level. The aim is to invest and to put in the effort, and it does what? Grows. But you grow based on the income levels that you have. You understand the value of time because that's what the one resource you can't get back, and spending is driven by personal values and choices. So if you want to upgrade your phone every year, no problem, make it part of the plan. But don't do it to impress us. Because guess what? You drive into the office with that new car, no problem, drive in there. And everyone here will come, Mariel will come, and Edith will come, and Emily will come and say, Hamid, nice car, man. And they go on with their lives. You're left with a loan for 5 years for people to say, nice car. And the next day, if one of the other colleagues drives in with a better car, yours is already forgotten. People don't care about your life. So stop trying to impress them, ladies and gentlemen. Impress yourself. So if it matters to you, make it part of your plan and go for it. Here at Centonomy, we'll never come and tell you don't buy a car, don't upgrade your phone. No, 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 no. That's the lifestyle that who wants? You. So long as you can back it up. And so if we get caught up in this trap of an image, your image can be a prison or it can be a resource. And we put this up because these cars are very popular around East Africa. I'm sure you've seen them. The Toyota Probox on the right-hand side. That one can carry produce from your farm, right? The one on the left, it doesn't even go. It's supposed to go off-road, but doesn't even go near mud because you want to keep it as clean as possible to show. So no, I'm not saying either of them is bad. I'm just saying if you imagine if you had 10 of the ones on the right transporting produce around the country, they would pay you enough to drive this one on the left. Isn't that the goal? So is your image a resource or is it a prison? Big question mark. So now that I've challenged you and I've put you into that position, let's get practical now. I needed to wake you up because, ladies and gentlemen, I told you this is not a budgeting class. You already have a budget. I am speaking to adults who are managing their lives and their money. So all I'm trying to do is to get you to think differently. That's my aim. And if you can think differently and tweak your thoughts around it, it'll change your actions and push you towards your goals. All right? So, as I said, if you have a question or comment along the way, just raise your hand or type in the chat box. We'll pick it up and get there, right? Okay. So, yeah. How much of what you work so hard for is actually yours? Ladies and gentlemen, how much is actually yours? We want to do a small experiment, if you don't mind. I want you to imagine that this calendar, January all the way to December, represents your total income, right? Your total income from your salary, from any business or investments that you have with your spouse, your family, how much you bring in. It's your total income, okay? I want you to imagine that each month represents 10% of your income, 10% of your income, okay? Now, those of you who are quick at maths, you recognize that's 12 months times 10, that's 120% of my income. Yep, we're gonna see that we spend a lot more than that, if you don't mind, okay? So we're gonna use a specific format. In the chat box, what is the income tax level that you pay in the country that you're serving right now? So for example, here in Kenya, it's tax, I'll say income tax, Yeah. Specifically, it's about 30% for those who are in this room. So kindly in the chat box, kindly just type in the income tax level that you pay. Real quick. So that when you get some money, it goes to the government. I just want to kind of get an average of what the income tax level is so that we can work together. Okay, Dorcas is about the same, 35, 35, 25. Hey, we are in the same region. Okay, same space. Pius, we want to come where you are because 18% is the best I've seen so far. So 18 to as high as 35%. Okay. Now, if we look at the rest of the tax burden, right, if you added up any kind of other VAT, value-added taxes where you are, excise duties that are paid, levies that are paid on different things. Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. If we added that all up, East Africa is one of the highest tax payer regions in the world. You're talking about anywhere between 40% and up to 50% is in tax, because you think about it, all these other taxes fall into place. So I'm looking for an average for all of us here, right? And on average, let's just say 30%. So what does that mean? 10, or where does it go? 10, 20, 30% of your income goes to the government. That meant that you worked from January to March for the government. Remember, I'm asking how much of the money that you make is actually yours. So when you start the year between January and March, all you have worked for is for the government, okay? So after you've paid the government, where does your money go next? So in the chat box, I want you to write down where your money goes in this format, right? Like, for example, here, and tell me, what do you think the averages are? Like tax, what the average is. So I said tax 30%. So I'm saying the item and where the money goes and the percentage, okay? So that's the format I want. Type as many examples of all the places that your money goes. I want to just see as quickly as possible. And if you see somebody has typed in something that's different from yours, it's okay to say, oh, as tax is this amount, and you put the percentage. What do you think the average is within your community that people put towards those items? So as quickly as possible, type in the chat box, after you've paid tax, where does your money go next? As many items as possible, put the item and an average percentage that you think is there. So Hamid, that's excellent. I would have liked to have had more percentages next to those items. Just type them in. You can come and say rent, and excellent. Just type one at a time so as many as possible can get into the chat box. Good. School fees, 30%. Relatives, they are family. So now, Peter, you have said family expenses. Do you mind explaining what family expenses are? Because I'd like to, that's a huge chunk of that. Tax 30, supporting others 60, 10 on myself. Yourself, how? 10% of what, on what? Ah, good. Now Peter is beginning to break it down. Love it, love it, love it. Excellent. Good, good, good. Keep going, guys. Keep going. As many items as you can possibly think of. And if you disagree with the percentages or the thoughts of others, you can also write them in. You don't have to write 30 at the same time. Just type one and then enter. Type another, enter. Type another, enter. Good. So housing. Mariel Mabor is talking about 20% towards housing, school fees, 20%. Utilities, especially rent, electricity, water, and food stuff. Philip, yes, thank you. Medic, yes, Dorcas, 10, 30, 20, bills, correct, correct, correct. Good. So let's look at what some of these averages could be. Let's look at, and we're trying to be as inclusive as possible. Love it. Debts, holidays, yes, Lydia, yes. Good. So I'm going to be as inclusive as I can be. So not everyone is married, not everyone has children, okay? So let's imagine an average, at least from what I've said, seen for housing. Housing rent, I saw what, 10 up to, what did I see was the highest? 20, 30, okay. Good. So 20% seems to be a good average for housing, okay? So 10, 20 goes towards housing. After that, what else comes up? I think one that has shown up multiple times, family expenses. Supporting family can go as high as 50, but I'll go on the lower side and I'll say, let's say 20%, right? Let's say 20. So 10, 20 for household shopping, supporting at least the team within household shopping that you're going to do within that house, okay? I know that may be a bit high for the singles, but don't worry. For you, imagine you still had another one. I'm very surprised. We don't have transport costs, ladies and gentlemen. Transport didn't show up here, but let me see. I see debt coming up a few times. Oops. So, very good. So let's look at this. Let's look at probably transport at about 10%. What else? Utilities, electricity, water, garbage collection, security, and all those. Let's talk about maybe, okay, maybe another 10%. Aha. Woo. Yeah, yeah. Debt is a big part of what we're talking about here. So supporting family members outside of your nuclear family, relatives who are out, the extended family, another 10%. Ladies and gentlemen, just have a look at the screen. Do you notice something? We have now finished your money. That is 100% of your income. And at this point, now I'm going to try and remind you of a few things. Ladies and gentlemen, I know we don't talk about it much, but in Africa, I believe our faith is a very important thing. How much do you give towards your faith, your belief, your religion? And even if you're not religious, how much do you give towards charity? Now, charity, charity is beyond home. Oh, Dorcas, Riath, which 10% are we giving? Which one? We have finished our money. That is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100%. So which money are we spending on our faith? And we haven't gone on holiday. Oh, did I see holiday come before faith? I think I saw it somewhere there. Let's remove holiday money. And now because we borrowed money to go on holiday, we have to repay. And I looked here. Only one person, at least from what I can see, I could be wrong, but only Hannah Mohammed mentioned saving for myself. This is a saving and investing class, and only one person mentioned saving. Only one. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a problem. There is a problem. And at this point, we have not paid school fees. Thank God we have not had any medical expenses. At this point, we have not bought any clothes. Neither have we gone to the salon or to the barber shop to do our hair to make ourselves look good. And there are many other things we are not yet done. There is a problem. And so here is tip number one. Guys, we are being practical. So, Peter, let's not even go down that way. I want us to be clear about this. Write this down. And I know it sounds simple. And that's the point of what we're doing here, is to simplify so that you can take action. Tip number one, write it down. Pay yourself first. As a principle. How do you pay yourself? Please write this down. You pay yourself by doing two things. Number one, saving, and number two, investing. And those two are not the same thing, so you have to do both of them. And the issue here is to do them first. Why, ladies and gentlemen? We're being practical. Why? Because if you pay everybody else first, there's nothing left. You pay the government, you pay the landlord, or you pay the bank, depending on which is the place that you're going to do. You pay your relatives, you pay for transport, you pay the school, you pay for food, you pay for utilities, you pay for holidays, you pay for medical expenses. You've paid everybody except yourself. So who is going to take care of you now? I know it sounds simple. It is not easy. There's a difference between simple and easy. Simple is understandable. It is clear. It is evident. You can comprehend it. But to take action is not easy. One of the trainers that you're going to meet up, he taught me this early on, and he said, at the beginning of the month, I have no money. Why? Because I've already sent my money where it should go. I have given my money a job description. It is a priority, Marianne. It is, and you must be a priority, because if you're not taking care of you, all those people you're taking care of, who will take care of them if you are compromised? Ladies and gentlemen, I mean it practically. What does that mean? The next paycheck you receive, you will receive it without tax, no problem. So 30% tax goes. If you're a person of faith like me, you give towards your faith, your tithe and your offering, whatever amount you're going to put there. The next person you pay is yourself. How do you do that? Some of this money you save, some of it you invest. And I know the very next question. Can I ask it on your behalf, please? What percentage of my income should I save and invest? Oh, Hamid, I hope you noticed the flow that I went through. Okay? I didn't pay myself before tax. I'm paying myself after tax. Okay? I hope you noticed that. I'm just saying, what is the idea to prioritize? You see that paying of tax, you didn't even have a role in it. The company is going to pay on your behalf. But the money that you receive, what action are you going to take? So you are asking, what percentage should I save and invest? No percentages, ladies and gentlemen. Write this down. Goal-based saving and investing. Write that again. I'll say it again. Goal-based. So in the next module, we'll talk about a savings goal, like to put together, for example, an emergency fund, and we'll give you a tool for that so that you have a savings goal. Why does that matter? Because if I tell you percentages, did you see the income, the percentage for John? If John is saving 10% of his income and Nyambura is saving 10% of her income, that is completely, what does it do? There's no difference. I mean, they are nowhere close to each other. I disagree with you, Marielle. I disagree with you. Anyone who begins to talk about percentage saving and investing means they don't have a goal. What is the goal of saving? So when we come into that session, we're going to talk about an emergency fund. It will be a number. It will be to save $6,000 for an emergency fund. Do you see that 6,000 is very different from 20%? Why is it different? Because if 6,000 is my target, then I use some of my money from my income, but I also have to think and to process and to work out, how do I get to $6,000 faster than just simply saving every month? Because a number puts you under pressure. And percentages just become habitual without direction. And 15 to 20% for what? To achieve what? Nobody knows. So in Centonomy, and I'm going to keep hammering this down, goal-based saving and investment. Set a goal. So I am saving. My goal is to hit 6,000 in a savings account or 6,000 in my emergency fund, $6,000, so that should I be under pressure, I can draw from this $6,000. Why is that important? Because once I hit that goal of $6,000, then the money I've been saving every month towards it, I can redirect it to other things. I am in control of my money. And that's what we're trying to do here at Centonomy, is to take control of our money. Not percentages. Goal-based, because if you set the goal, then you will solve the problem of getting there, which includes a percentage saving or a percentage, but it's not enough. So, yes, it is the key, Maria. Then your 20% or work. I know I gave 6,000 as an example. $6,000 was an example. When we do the emergency fund, and we'll give you that tool to fill in and to work it out, you will decide your emergency fund number as an example, okay? In the financial planning class, we will set education goals. We will set retirement goals. So there'll be specific numbers, not percentages, so that you have to take action based on that number. Whoo! Things are fire this morning. I'm so sorry. I came with all the energy, but it's so that you get the point. Goal-based saving and investing, and you make it a priority. As I said, if you pay everybody else first, there's nothing left. So Hamid, just one more time. You don't, we pay the government our tax. If you're a person of faith, I said like me, we give towards our faith or towards charity. The next thing you do is save and invest. Then, ladies and gentlemen, whatever is left after that is what you live on. And suddenly, people will be, people, I'm sure you've heard this many times. Live within your means. Haven't you heard that many times? Live within your means. This is what that means. Here you have catered for your present and you have catered for your future by taking action now. Pay yourself when? First. Woo! Fire. Practically, for many of us, that may mean put a standing order. Put a standing order. That means that money that you don't even see it. Or if you can talk to your accounts department and tell them, please, my pension deduction should be increased to this number because I want, by the time I retire, that my pension be at this level. This payment should go the same way that your debt repayment, you don't even see it, isn't it? It just simply is checked off your salary. Your investment should be checked off the same way. Then suddenly, it's not that you will be less generous to your relatives and friends and everybody around you. It's just simply you're being more realistic, because sometimes we are being unrealistic in the way that we support others. It's unrealistic. It is unsustainable. Pay yourself when? First. I hope you've written it down. And how do you pay yourself? Saving and investing towards goals. Yes. Yes, Maria. So let's talk about our expenses now for a couple of minutes, if you don't mind. So we're going to use what we call the Centonomy ABC budget, okay? And the ABC budget, just for simple understanding, is this. We have what are called A expenses. A expenses are essential. You need them for life. Food, housing, education, essential. However, not all food is essential. Am I right, ladies and gentlemen? Not all rent is essential. Let me explain that one, because I think that one we don't get. If I have a house or an apartment that I'm living in, it's got 3 bedrooms, but we only use 2 of those bedrooms. That extra bedroom is a luxury. Now, I did not say that extra bedroom is a bad thing. Isn't that our goal? We want to live abundantly. I didn't say it's a bad thing. I just want us to recognize that it is a what? A luxury. It is not essential. Now, I didn't say that your budget should have nothing. And let me stop there for a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, many times our budgeting process is flawed or has mistakes because we imagine that our budget should only have essential things, correct? Big mistake. Your budget should have everything that you spend on. Hamid, I want to answer your question right now. You said saving is not usually easy, giving the social pressure. Would a loan for investment be a solution? It might be. However, Hamid, if you don't take control of your money, please understand, everyone else has a plan for your money. And this idea of social pressure, I want to disagree with you. I think you make decisions. Let me explain why I think you make decisions, Hamid. And that's a really good question in the chat box. Let me explain why I think you make decisions. Hamid, I'm sure, and you can switch on your mic to respond to this if you don't mind, right? I'm sure, Hamid, that you have had relatives who have been deathly ill. They've been in hospital and require funds for that scenario. Yes, Hamid, have you ever been through that? And I pray not too often. You have, right? Hamid, did you sell your car and your house to pay for their medical bills? Did you sell everything you have to pay for them?
I have sold some land for some cases to pay for it.
But I'm saying, did you sell your house, your car, everything you own to pay for some medical bills?
I mean, I could go to that extent if needed. I believe.
But did you do it?
It was not needed because I could sell some land to be able to pay for it. And I didn't go as far as selling my car or my house.
So my question is, Hamid, like for example, maybe I made an assumption. Do you have children and a family?
Yes.
So if your auntie or your uncle was sick, would you sell the house that your children are living in to pay for your auntie's medical expenses?
Definitely no. Definitely no.
Why not?
Your family is my priority.
Exactly. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So you already have limits.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So why not take control of those limits? Because what I'm trying to argue for us here, ladies and gentlemen, is often we are trying to solve a short-term problem by compromising or making our future more difficult, because we are saying we are solving this problem now, but it is, yes, you take care of the problem, but the future has been affected because you have not invested sufficiently to take care of that future. And so, in as much as Hamid has proven right now, and I said he had a limit, if his children cannot live on the street for somebody else's medical expenses, it means you have a limit.
Yeah, that's true.
So put limits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Take control of those limits. So, yes, Riyadh, I know that in different environments and different markets, it's not as clear where those investments should be. And I said, yes, like South Sudan, it's so volatile. Hey, I think South Sudan, if you think that that's bad, Kenya, recently I saw in the news, our stock market has been rated as the worst performing in the world. I don't know where they got that from. So look, investments are not easy. Saving is not easy. We'll talk about that and spend some time on it, but we have no choice. So when we get to that point, we're going to get there and have that discussion, okay? So we have no choice but to invest. And so we must find the best investment that we can for ourselves in our scenarios. But we cannot sit back and say, it's volatile, we cannot invest. We must invest. Just like a farmer must plant seed in order to get a harvest. If they look and say, oh, there's going to be El Nino, or there might be drought, or so I'm not going to plant, then there will be no harvest, ladies and gentlemen. And you must plant seed of investment. Let's get back to our expenses. Ooh. So there are some essential expenses. And what I was trying to say about our budget is that our budget should include all our expenses for essential items, for fun items, for giving items, for all items that we spend money on should be in our budgets. Are we clear on that? So, A, expenses, essential. but not all of them are. Do you get what I'm saying? So what is essential, you have to be clear about. B expenses are important, but not essential. So it is important to look good. So you need to go to the gym. But if you can't go to the gym, what could you do instead? In the chat box, what could you do if you didn't pay for a gym membership? Because it's about the healthcare, isn't it? Yeah, just take a walk. Yeah. Exercise at home. There are other options. Now, did I say going to the gym is wrong or it is a bad thing? Listen carefully. I just said, in fact, the first word of the B expenses is what? Important, but not essential. Just like hair care, going to the salon or to the barber shop is important, but it is not essential. How do I know? If I went back to Hamid and asked, Hamid, go to the barber to get your hair cut or feed your children, which one do you think Hamid is going to do? Feed the children. That's how you know what is essential versus what is important. Now it's important, but not essential. So that's how you categorize, so that now you begin to make choices around that. And finally, if it doesn't fall into the A or B, it falls into C, everything else. Pay TV, going out for lunch, other things like that are not essential, neither are they important, they fall into everything else. But write this down, all A, B's, and C's should be in your budget. Because the mistake would be to have a budget with only A's, but a lot of your money goes to B's and C's, and you don't know where that money is going, and you're not in control of it. So the idea, ladies and gentlemen, is to categorize it all within your budget. So everywhere your money goes should be in your budget. Can I say that again? Everywhere your money goes should be in your budget. And this is how that budget should look. Okay? This is how it looks. This is what we call the Centonomy ABC budget. All right? Centonomy ABC budget. And this is how it works. So on the top left, on the top left, you have your income, cash inflow, wherever the money is coming from, like your net salary, but only after you've removed tax and statutory deductions, okay? So if you have any kind of pension payments, any kind of investment, they should show up as part of your investment plans in the budget, okay? So this is just income other than tax. Now, all your income should be here. So if you have any other source of income, you have some rental properties, you have some investments, you have some businesses, any income that comes to you, it needs to be accounted for here. Are we together? Can I make this even more difficult? But it shouldn't be difficult. But I want to challenge us, ladies and gentlemen. I want, if you can, as much as you possibly can, that you would include in your household budget your spouse's income and expenditure as well. Should I leave the room now? Why, ladies and gentlemen? Because honestly, you have what is called a household budget. Let me explain. If you try and budget and you don't have visibility or you cannot see what your spouse is bringing or what they are spending, then your budget cannot work. It is like the departments in your organization. If one department is spending and the accounts department does not know what they're spending or what they're bringing in, they can't plan. You can't work. There is no way. And so if you try and do a household budget with one side of it only, there is danger down the road. First of all, because there's a lack of visibility, you cannot see. And we've been training on personal finance for now over 14 years. And one of the biggest issues we find, especially about money and relationships, is that lack of visibility. What that means, I am anxious because I see my spouse spending like they earn everything. And I don't, where do they get the money? How much do they know how much I earn? Can't they see what I am doing? No, they can't, because you've never told them. The other strategy, Juan, I can't leave. I can't leave. I have to speak. Let me continue to speak. One of the other strategies that we've seen within families is, hey, like for us, for example, let's say my wife pays the rent for where we live, and I pay the school fees for the children, and she pays for this, and I pay for that, and those are our responsibilities, okay? That's fine, no problem, but we must see that. Why? Because even if my wife is paying the rent for this house that we're living in, if she pays it, I benefit from that rent. I don't have to pay rent. The same way that if I pay the school fees for our children, she benefits because she doesn't have to pay the school fees. And so even if we split the responsibility, so I'm not saying you don't have to split or you don't have to take. All I'm saying is it is good and good practice to see it so that you can plan and work together. And I think I heard that somewhere before. 2 heads are better than 1. Making decisions and planning together, you will find great success. So our advice, Juan, and everybody else who was telling me to leave the room, is that do this together as a family. Do this with your spouse, because it will begin to reveal what is happening now and what could happen in the future, and you do so as a team. That's the whole point of a family, is that as a family, you work together as a team. I hope I've convinced you. So put all the incomes here at the top left as much as you possibly can. After that, now this is the most important part of this, more important than the incomes. The incomes are not even the most important. The most important part of your budgeting process is clarity as to where your money actually goes. So do your very best. In the next kind of 1 month, you will do this and then review it so that by our next class, you'll come back with your budget ready. Okay, so we intend that by next month, you'll have completed the budget, and we'll share the soft copy with you. So the most important thing is to list where your money goes, as much detail as you possibly can. So if there are some expenses, maybe you don't have children, just delete the childcare expenses. You don't need to have them there. Maybe there are some expenses that you have that are not listed here. Maybe you're a professional, so you have to pay professional fees. Maybe you're a member of a club somewhere, a gym, and you have gym fees, so you need to put that in here, okay? As much as you possibly can. This is a monthly budget. Let me say that again. This is a monthly budget. I'll say that again. This is a monthly budget. And so if you have an item like, for example, car insurance, for many of us, we pay car insurance once a year, right? Correct? So what you want to do is to take that yearly amount and divide it by 12 so that it has a monthly effect. We're just trying to see where your money goes. So if it is an item that has an yearly effect, divide by 12. If it is maybe you pay every quarter, just divide by 3, okay? So that it becomes a monthly budget. So this person is bringing in 125,000, but they spend 124,900. They're left with $100. I mean, 100 shillings, which is about $1 at the end of the month. Do you see where how your money can just flow? Okay. That's step 1. Step two. You're going to take these items and then you're going to rationalize them using A, B, C formula. Okay, so let me do a quick test to see if people were taking notes. What did we say A expenses are in the chat box? Quick. What are A expenses? Real quick. You didn't know there was going to be a pop quiz. I apologize, but there we go. So essential, very good. And B expense, not food, Beryl. Beryl, you've made me happy. B, no, B expenses are what? Important, but not essential. Thank you, Pius. Good. And C expenses are everything else. Beryl, you've made me so happy. I've not had that before. A expenses, food. I know what Beryl is. Don't worry, Beryl. We'll take a short break now so you can go grab some tea or something. You might. That's very funny. Very funny. Okay, good. So A, B, C is essential. B is important, but not essential. C is everything else. I can hear a microphone on. Does somebody want to tell me something? Kennedy, you want to say something? Hi.
No, it is by mistake. Sorry.
No problem. I was just saying hi. That's all. When the mic is on, usually it means somebody wants to say something. Good. So A, B, C. So how do we use that, ladies and gentlemen? Make sure you list everywhere your money goes and then rationalize each item using A, B, C. So let's look at, for example, your phone expenses. Can you see phone expenses there? Let's use that as an example. So this person looks at their phone expenses. This is how much they spend. They spend 3,500 every month on phone expenses. So buying data, airtime, and other expenses that go on their phone, okay? Very good. So now, what do? We say out of this, because our phones are essential, isn't it? They are essential for our lives. We need them. We cannot function without our phones. Now, in society, having no phone is difficult, right? So it is essential. But not everything we do on our phone is essential. So this person recognizes, if I get one of those bundles that they give, the telecom companies give, 1,500 is sufficient for me to do my work calls, my normal calls, to have a bit of data. I can survive. That is the essential part of my phone expenses. But then this person also says, I have other expenses, B expenses on my phone amounting to about 2,000. Let me give you an example of a B expense. I know this is going to sound controversial, but attending this session today, if you are using your phone, for example, is a B expense. How do I know it's a B expense? It's important. It is. Remember we said B expenses are what? Important, but not essential. If you had a choice between attending this session, paying the money to attend on my phone, or feeding your children, please understand you will feed your children and then figure out how you're going to attend the class. Do you see why it's a B expression there? And for many of us, we may have C expenses on that amount. So we have taken this first amount here, 3,500, and we have broken it down into A, B, and C, if there are some C expenses. So we are trying to rationalize it. So then when you look at it and say, that's what we are spending, then we can make choices around our proposed budget. So you can see this last column here, proposed budget. So now we propose and begin to work and say, okay, if I'm spending 3,500, but I don't need to spend 3,500, I can find some space there. But you need space for C and B expenses. You need to be attending classes. You need to be doing all these other things. But so you can make choices and reduce that amount. Instead of spending 3,500, bring that amount down to 3,000. Please note, I didn't jump all the way from 3,500 to this 1,500. I didn't. But we're making small shifts. This person also used to go out to buy clothes and other things, right? Childcare expenses. So 7,000 was their budget. Look, children are growing every single day. They need clothes consistently. So A is 6,000. But you know, every time you passed by somewhere, you saw a cute outfit, you saw a small thing that, and you bought it because you're just used to buying stuff. So this person says, you know what, I need to be buying clothes every month, but I'm not going to be spending 7, I'll be spending 6. So do you see that they're making small shifts? They are not completely killing everything that is fun and over and above. And in fact, some of these items may go up. For example, if you said you want to read more, that means you need to buy more books. So your budget for books will go up. What we're saying is, once you have done this first part, your current expenses effectively, then you are able now to put together this proposed budget here on the right, making small changes. But those small changes add up. Look, from their normal budget here on the left-hand side, they were only left with $1 at the end of the month. But by making these small changes to all the items, they're left with an extra $116 or 11,600 shillings, for example, that can go towards paying down your debt faster, investments for the goals that you have, saving that you're going to go. It can help with these things. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Centonomy ABC budget, which you're going to be using, and you need to have completed by our next session next month. Any question around this before I move on? And we're about to take a short break. So Beryl, don't worry, you'll get a cup of tea and coffee just now. Then we talk about assets after that. Your balance sheet and assets. Any question about the ABC budget? This is your time to ask. You can either raise your hand or type in the chat box, but I have to take them quickly so that we can move on. If there's no question, it means it was very clear. So you start off by first listing what your current budget is. What are you currently spending? Then you look at each item and say, if that's 3,500, what could it be? I need at least 1,500. I want to have an extra 2,000. So I will not remove the whole 2,000. I'll just make a small adjustment. Mariela said it is clear, so I'm going to move on. Thank you. Now, a lot of the work, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to be doing at first will be called guesswork. That's okay. You start with guesswork. However, starting now, and I don't mean today, I mean now, right now, because some of you are going to walk out of this session and go and buy a cup of coffee. And so the first thing you're going to do when you buy that cup of coffee is to write it down. You are going to track your expenses for the next 1 month minimum. So between now and the next class, you need to write down and keep record of every cent you spend, every pence you spend, every shilling you spend, whatever the smallest amount of your currency is, you have to keep track of it for 1 month minimum. And we advise that you do this 1 month every year or so. It will give you some guidance on what you're doing, okay? But for now, for 1 month minimum, please write or track your expenses. So we're going to share an expense tracker. It's an Excel sheet. Use that. You can also use a notebook. You can also use apps on your phone to track your expenses. The key thing is to do what? To track your expenses. This one thing sounds so simple, but let me tell you, it will change your life. For us, it changed our lives. Because in our lives, my wife and I, when we did this about 11 years ago, we discovered that we were spending more on takeout food than our rent. Crazy, right? Until we did the maths, because small amounts add up, ladies and gentlemen. So this is what it was. So here in Kenya, you spend maybe around 200, this was 11 years ago, so 200, maybe 250 for lunch, right? If you're working in a in an urban area, especially in Nairobi city, if you're like in the urban areas, and that's where we were. So we were spending, and this is not a fancy lunch. This is not a fancy, no, this is the one that Nyambura brings to our offices. You know, Nyambura, the one we discussed earlier on. So we found about 250 is what we're spending Kenya shillings. That's about USD $2.50. Okay. So just so that you have some context for that. But that's times 2, because that's 2 of us. So that's 500. But that's Monday to Friday, because it's every day. That came up to 2,500. Okay. Now on the weekend, now Saturday, now because, and then we don't have kids, but still, even now, if you have kids, you still spend more. Now you go to that nice restaurant. So you go to a nice restaurant and we would spend about 3,000 shillings to about $30. Okay. 3,000 shillings. Then Sunday after church, now you take the family out and you spend another 3,000 shillings. So we were seeing in a week, we were spending about, at that time, Kenya shillings 8,500. Okay. Now 8,500 per week. That meant in a month. Okay. In a month, that meant 34,000 shillings. Okay. 85 times 4, 34,000. Okay. That time we were spending rent at that time, because to the 2 of us, we was living in a small apartment that time, 11 years ago. Didn't have kids. We were spending 28,000 shillings on rent that time. And we would have meetings at the end of the month and look at each other and say, babe, where's the money to invest and to save? We were eating it. And I know, ladies and gentlemen, you're having solutions. Why didn't you cook more and carry food to the office? No problem. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you? Guess what we discovered, ladies and gentlemen? We discovered, because remember, it's the lifestyle that you want, right? We discovered it was cheaper to hire a chef to come and cook for us in our house than it was to eat out the way we are eating here. So we hired a guy called Japheth. And Japheth used to come every week and cook. He'd prepare food, he'd prepare stuff. Some he'd prepare, we put in the fridge. It's just ready for cooking. So when you remove it from the fridge, it goes into some oil, or you put it and you make it into a stew, or you put it in the oven and it bakes. It was cheaper to have a chef to come and cook than to eat. We saved more money hiring a chef than it was to eat out like this. In USD, just about 100 bob, rough equation to that. So that's 340. Philip, yeah. Yeah, and it's a good question to ask that. Because sometimes I do talk in Kenya shillings and it's hard to see that. This is takeout food alone. This was our budget for takeout food. This, and I'm being very polite, because this didn't include the nights that you'd come and say, are you cooking? No cooking, so we get some pizza or something like that. This was an average. Okay? So there are months that were worse than this. But what am I trying to say? If you don't know where your money is going, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot make decisions. You cannot. And that's why you have to track your expenses. I have a question for you, ladies and gentlemen. You guys do reports for your work, right? At World Food Program, right? And in your reports, is it acceptable to give a report and say, oh, the budget was around $12,000. We spent around $8,000. It was around $8,000, give or take. Is that an acceptable report at your workplace? In the chat box, yes or no? And what would happen to you if you gave a report like that? So you, hey, there's a baby helping us today. No problem. Welcome, 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 child. So you guys are taking care of WFP's money better than you take care of your own. So who's taking care of you? Ladies and gentlemen, track your expenses. Now, yeah, if you did a report like that, you'd be fired, isn't it? You would lose your job. So how do you report about your personal finance? It seems like some of us would be on a performance improvement plan in our own homes, isn't it, right? Marciela, you're asking what apps you can be able to use. There are many different apps that are available. There's Expense Tracker, Expense Manager, Expense Wallet, and I think all those are on both Android and iOS. There's a great one from Nigeria called Reach, REACH. So I always tell people, download 2 or 3 of them, okay, like of the most popular ones online, try them out. Because like in our house, my wife liked one. I think she liked Expense Manager. I liked Expense Tracker. Just simply because of how they look on the phone, I understood it a bit better. I liked the functionality. So the best way is to download 2 or 3 of them. Most of them are free, okay? So just look at the terms and conditions because you want to protect your data as much as you can. Download 2 or 3 of them, try them out. The one that you enjoy the most using, use that one, okay? That's how I would pick the rest of us, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, the key is to do what? To track. It's not the app. It's not the Excel sheet we're going to share. It's not the notebook. The key is to do what? To track. And I mean every cent that you spend. That means you need to download your bank statements because the bank deducts money with all your transactions. Do you know how much they deduct per month? How much that adds up a year? For those who are in Kenya, one of the biggest things is our mobile phones. In Kenya, we use M-Pesa on our phones for money transfer, bank deed. I mean, we use this so much and we don't know how much the transactions cost and we never actually keep track of it. One other thing that we never... How many of you actually know the amount that you give to your relatives and friends charitably? Do you keep track of that? Or when they call, you just send? This month, from starting now, today on the 4th of October, we're starting right at the beginning of the month, just write it down. I didn't say stop giving. I just said write down. When you send it, write it. At the end of this, when you come in next month's session, you will be shocked how much money you have flowing through your account. And we want to put a stop so that it accumulates like a dam and it takes care of you in future. All right? Hamid is saying it will be depressing to track, but if you do not, you will continue to be blind and you will not be able to achieve the financial goals that you have. It is impossible. If you don't know where your money is going, you cannot. Because that's how every time you increase your expense, your income, your expenses just keep up with them. Now we are taking control. So it's okay to be depressed a little bit. Don't worry. In fact, we even have the wellness team with us today. They'll talk to you a bit about that depression and how to deal with it. But after the depression, it will open your eyes to things that are even better. That's the money that will take you on holiday, and you'll be glad that you are depressed for a few weeks so that it takes your family on holiday. All right? So track your expenses. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 12:40 East African time. We're going to take a 10-minute break so you can get up, go get a cup of coffee. And if you buy it, track it, write it down over that period of time. In 10 minutes at 12:50 East African time, we come back and talk about assets now. We begin to understand the difference between our assets and what we call here at Centonomy flossets. See you guys in 10 minutes. 10 minutes, we come back. Up from where we were. Let's pick up from where we were, get back right into it. Okay, so we talked about putting together our budget and the spending tracker. This is the assignments that we have now, and it is to take action now. Ladies and gentlemen, now. Okay, so start working on the budget. And then track your expenses for the next 1 month. Next month, you come back to this budget and put the actual numbers in it, the real numbers. Because if you've not tracked, then it will be guesswork what you're doing. When you put the real numbers, you will be surprised how rich you actually are so far, okay? So I'm glad. I didn't see any question or comment around this, so I'm just moving right along. Oh, Pius had a comment. When I try to reflect on my past expenses, it is depressing. Yes, Pius, don't worry. The wellness team will help you with that. But once you see it, it'll open up opportunities that you never saw before. So it's worth it. Go through the depression. It's like going to the gym. When you go to the gym and you have to stand on the weighing scale, it can be depressing. But once you see it, then as you work out, you see that the kilos and the pounds falling off. It's worth it. It's worth it. Okay, good. So budget spending tracker. So we want to talk about your balance sheet now. And when you get into your balance sheet, it's important for us to understand the difference between assets and what we call here at Centonomy flowsets. Assets are for investment, or the investment assets that put money in your pocket. That's the simplest way to look at it. An asset puts money in your pocket. A flowset, on the other hand, you can put this terminology below it and call it a consumption asset. A consumption asset is something that you own that has value, but it takes money out of your pocket. Hey, it makes you look rich, but it actually takes money out of your pocket. For example, your personal car. If you drive a personal car, it has value, yes. But if you think about it, it is losing value. You have to maintain it. You have to fuel it. You have to put spare parts into it. You have to pay for parking, for washing, for everything that goes into that car. That's money coming out of your pocket. If you took a loan, you have to repay that loan with interest or the charge that comes with it. So I know the banks call them assets, but for us to build wealth, we need to understand which kind of asset. So investment assets put money in your pocket. Consumption assets or flowsets make you look wealthy, therefore flossing. Consumption assets take money out of your pocket. And the idea is that you want to have more investment assets than you have flowsets, right? That's the aim. So I thought it was important, because if we look at it and we'll start putting all the things that we own into our balance sheet, it will skew your understanding and may make problems down the road. So your balance sheet. Your balance sheet, now, ladies and gentlemen, is a comparison between what you own and what you owe. Your assets and your liabilities. And when we talk about liabilities, let me be very clear. Liabilities or loans or debt, any debt, loans, or liabilities, that means you borrowed money to do something. So the money that you borrowed is a liability. I have heard people say, oh, my car is a liability. Okay, in general language, that's okay. But for the sake of what we're doing right now, when I say liabilities or loans or debt, it is the money that you have borrowed. Okay. So assets, what you own, we've got liquid assets and fixed assets. Liquid assets can be turned into cash easily. They're either cash or they can be turned into cash very easily. Like you can get your cash in one day. That's a liquid asset. Fixed assets, it's difficult to turn them into cash. So give me an example of a liquid asset that is not cash in the chat box. Just a quick test. What do you think is a liquid asset?
Maybe gold.
So somebody has said gold. Okay. So if I have gold today, and it's God willing in a safe space, I've never traded in gold. Okay. So you will tell me, can you sell that gold at a good price within a day or two? Within 1 day or two at a good price, not a throwaway price. You get a good price. The person who said that, you can. Okay. So yes, in your case, because you have said, I can sell it at a good price within a day or two, at a good rate, I'm not throwing it away, then yes, that is a liquid asset for you. Okay. So cash in the bank is a liquid asset, correct? Stocks, generally, if you own stocks, they tend to be quite liquid. Buying and selling is quite easy. Excellent. So we got it. Fixed assets, I think this one is simple. Things like real estate, especially real estate, fixed. I'll give you a couple other examples so that you can see what that looks like. Excellent. Treasury bills, Edith, are kind of liquid because of the amount of time that they're held, and they can be sold in some scenarios. So yes, I will agree with that, Edith. I will. Yes, they're quite treasury bills because they are short term. Short term. Bonds are long term. Treasury bills are short term. Yes, I think that's acceptable. Yes. So liabilities, now what you owe, your debts, any kind of loans that you have. So we have two types. We have investment liabilities, what you borrowed for investment. Then we have personal liabilities, what you borrowed for consumption. Now, the best way to see that is to put it in the actual balance sheet. And I'll explain that as we go forward, okay? So I'm going to take a bit of time here because this is probably something you have heard, but maybe you have never actually played it out. Like, it's necessary to do this. Now, let me give you some encouragement. Your budget, write that down so you don't forget. The budget we talked about, the ABC budget, is a monthly tool. You use it every month. How did we do this month? What was the effect? How did we go? Your balance sheet is a tool that you use maybe once a year. Okay? Once a year. Why? Because your balance sheet is a snapshot. It is a picture of your current financial status now, and I mean current. So you take a financial picture, you forget about it. Come back next year, take another picture, and then you put the two together and see the before and after. So your balance sheet is not a tool that you use every day, every week, every month. Use it once a year. You put the information, and then you come back a year later, put the similar information together, and see the before and after, okay? So as you can see here, we have liquid assets here at the top, and this is what we're going to share with you. Liquid assets like your savings account, you can get that money out even today if you like. SACCOs, those who may not be familiar with what a SACCO is, it's called a savings and credit cooperative. Now, they're pretty popular in many countries across Africa as well. So if you save and you have access, so here's the key to it. There are some savings tools in SACCOs, savings and credit cooperatives, that they lock your money in, so you can't get it out. So if you can't get that money out quickly, then you might move that to a fixed, okay, a fixed asset, because it's difficult to transfer to cash. But if you can access the cash, put it as liquid. As you said earlier on, Edith, like a treasury bill, because it's short term, you can get the cash back in a short term. So this person has a total of $350,000 in dollars. That would be about what? $3,500, okay, in liquid cash. Or liquid assets, sorry, that can be transferred to cash easily. Fixed assets, we talked about land or real estate. That one is very clear. But think about it, like your pension is an asset, but it's fixed. You can't access it just randomly, but it's there, it's somewhere. And at some point, you'll be able to get it. So it's important to keep track of what your pension is, for example, if you have a pension. Or if you have any kind of long-term savings policies that you have, those are fixed. And so you can't access them quickly. You can put them here as a fixed asset, okay? So this person, these are examples of fixed assets that we have here. So this person has a total of 1 million shillings in fixed assets, about $10,000 in fixed assets. So their total is 1.35 million shillings, which again is about $13,500 in assets, liquid and fixed. Liabilities. So let's look at liabilities. Liabilities, we have investment-related liabilities. So how do I know it is an investment-related liability? I know it is an invested liability if there is a corresponding asset here. So you see, loan to buy land, up here, there is land. There's a corresponding asset you borrowed for an asset. Now, we talked about it here. Assets put money in your pocket. And this is already a discussion that we've been having starting yesterday. People are wondering, should I borrow in order to grow? Okay, one of the reasons you could borrow is to purchase what? An asset. Because an asset will grow in value over time. We'll talk about that even as we go forward. And you want to build around that. That's an investment liability. And in this case, the outstanding amount on that liability is 100,000. Okay. It's 100,000. Let's go to personal liabilities. How do you know it's a personal liability and not an investment liability? Here, this person borrowed, took a loan to buy a car. So they borrowed the money, but up here, there is no corresponding asset called a car. I just stole somebody's car. I didn't. Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't steal your car. It's still outside. You still have the logbook. Don't worry. You own it. I just don't want you to put it here. Why? Because your personal car, if you use it for personal use, as you always do, takes money out of your pocket. It doesn't put money in your pocket. And you have no intention to make money from your personal car. Your intention is to use it. It is for consumption. Just like if you borrowed money to buy your chair or your sofa set, you have no intention of making money. In fact, you're losing money in that discussion. And we'll talk about that in detail when we deal in debt, which is our next session. We'll talk about debt in detail. But what we are saying here is this. If you own it and it doesn't put money in your pocket, in fact, it takes money out of your pocket, it's not an asset. It's a floor set. So like in this case, you put the amount that you owe on the car, but you will not put the value of the car up here. Now, you still have the car. Just don't put it in your balance sheet. Okay? Let's make this even more emotional. Can I make this more emotional? Because Peter is asking about buying a house. So if I took a mortgage, to buy a house, I would put that mortgage down here and the amount I borrowed, but up here again, because I am living in that house, I will not put the value of my house if I live in it as part of my assets there. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I did not steal your house. You still have it, you're still living in it. I just don't want you to consider it an asset. Why? Because it takes money out of your pocket to live in that house. That house does not put money in your pocket. And ladies and gentlemen, we're not the only ones who talk about this. I'm sure many of you are familiar with a gentleman called Robert Kiyosaki. He's written quite a few books around wealth creation and finance. The one that you probably are familiar with is a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And if you have ever listened to Kiyosaki, he talks about if you have a home and you live in it, do not put it there as an asset because it takes money out of your pocket. Okay. Now, this is Olfa. Hopefully I'm pronouncing correctly. And if I mispronounce your name,
yes,
please
it's correct.
feel free to correct me. Excellent. So Olfa, you're asking, and what if you don't live in it? It's just a business for rent? Yes. Then at that point, you put the current value of the property, the value of it. You bought it for maybe what? $50,000, okay? So you put $50,000 as the current value up here of the asset. And if there's any outstanding amount on the loan, the outstanding amount will come down here as a liability, okay? But if you live in it, the liability, the loan will be here, but the value of the property will not be here. So this person has 350,000 in debt. So their net assets, 1 million, because it's 1.35 million minus 350,000, 1 million, about 10,000 in net assets, $10,000 net assets, about that amount. Okay. Okay, let's argue, because I know I've disturbed a few people and they want to argue. Like Marciela wants to say something, that your mic is on. So Marciela, you want to ask a question or to make a comment, and we can do so. Hi. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in agreement. Your house doesn't show up here. No one is surprised that your house is not an asset. I think we talked about that before. Why? Because your intention, ladies and gentlemen, is to use it. Just like your personal car, what is your intention? And the reason that we're saying this right now is that there's been a huge drive, especially here in Africa. Brian, I disagree with you. It's not dead capital. If you live in it, it's actually useful to you. You're using it. But you have to consider as a long-term plan, what will pay you to live in your own home. Because as I said, one of the reasons that, hey, supporting relatives, I think some people even called it black taxi. I don't like that terminology. Why we do that, in fact, and we're paying and we're sending money to people who are living in their own homes, is because they have no cash flow. So they have assets. They may be asset rich, but cash poor. So you have this asset that's worth tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And it's seated there, right? So the only way to unlock it is to either sell it or rent it. But because it's my home, my children grew up here. This is where, what will people say? We're finding a lot of people are in a space in their home. They have assets worth money that could sustain their life, but they can't use it because it's their home. Yes, Riyadh, yes. So you are 100% correct that living in your home means that you're not paying rent. Correct. And please understand, I am working very hard by the grace of God to live in my own home. But I have to understand what that home does. Exactly what you said, Riyadh. It saves me rent. So where does that show up? It does not show up in your balance sheet. It shows up where? In your budget. Because Riyadh, if you don't pay rent because you're living in your own home, then the rest of us, then you will just delete this. Can you see in your budget, you delete rent and that rent amount is not there. However, Riyadh, it is not free to live in your own home. And so the thought that that home puts money in your pocket, it does not. It takes money out. And so Riyadh, and this is the problem that people are having when they get to retirement, which is what I don't want you to have, is that they have a home they live in worth tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars. So they don't pay rent, but they have no cash to even go to the supermarket to buy food. But they have this asset called a home, but they have no cash. And if you've ever driven around these cities, especially the capital cities, you'll find especially the older ones, like here in Nairobi, for example, you go to some of the older estates that are there, and you will see this live happening. Because you'll see a house, an older house, it's dilapidated. They can't even maintain the fence. They can't even maintain the grass around it. The cars are parked there, but they never move. In fact, they are dusty. They don't even move at all. And there are people living there, 2 people living there. They are retired, but they have no what? Cash. And we don't want that for you. When you retire, and please write this down so you don't forget, in retirement, your primary financial problem, is going to be cash flow. Because many of you own properties, you own cars, you might even own your own home by the time you're retiring. But those things all cost to maintain. So you're going to try and figure out, how do we have assets that are going to pay us sufficiently to live in our own homes, Riyadh? And so here's what happens. If you put your value of your car or your house here on this sheet that's on the screen, it will inflate this number, and you'll say, oh, but I have a house worth $50,000, so now my net worth is 51 million shillings or $51,000, whichever one you're going to use. So you feel, oh, I'm doing well. Yes, you are in a sense, but that capital is locked into this asset. And if you keep it there, you might find yourself stressed, having assets, but you don't have cash. You do not want to be asset rich and cash poor. That's very difficult. So we are trying to make sure that you make those changes now, even in the way that you think. So if you built your own home, excellent. I'm working towards that. I've not yet achieved it, but we're working towards it. But I do own properties, and we have tenants in them who are paying us rent. And guess what? If we ever really needed a place to live, we could tell the tenant, please, now we can't rent you anymore, find somewhere else, and we could move into our property. If that ever, God forbid, happened. But if you're in your own home, you become very comfortable. I've achieved, I'm here. And you become very peaceful, and you forget that one day there'll be no payslip. What happens that day? So don't put your house there. Don't put your car. Don't put your sofa set. Don't put anything that you own that takes money out of your pocket or is reducing in value over time. That's why. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Philip now who's saying, I did not say that it is not valuable. And I did not say that owning your home is not a good thing. I said, in fact, that's the aim, that we should live in our own home. It's a good goal. I would like to do that myself. However, Philip, don't put it in your balance sheet because it will make you comfortable, and you should not be comfortable. You need to build assets that are going to pay you to live in that wonderful house of yours. That's what I'm trying to argue. And yes, I completely agree with you. If you live in your own home, it reduces your rent. So that doesn't show up in your balance sheet. It shows up in your budget. As I said, can you see up here where I deleted it? Let me go back there. I deleted here rent, because for you, if you own your own home and you live in your own home, excellent, wonderful. It means that unlike all of us who are paying rent, yours is zero. So here's the thing, Peter. But what happens if I sell or intend to sell? Excellent question, Peter. On the day that you say my house is now up for sale, you have put up for sale, you have got an agent, you're ready to sell it, put it here. On that day, yes, the value of that house immediately shows up in your balance sheet. Well done. But until that day that you say it is for sale, don't put it here. Same thing with your car. If you decide today I'm putting a for sale sign on my car, immediately you can put the car on your balance sheet because it is going to get a financial return. But until that day, don't put it here because it will skew the way that you think. Alpha is getting it correct. Alpha said there's no income from living in your own house except not paying rent. So yes, there is no cash there's a reduced, let me say, there's a reduced, instead of paying rent, you pay maintenance, you pay taxes. So it's reduced. The amount that you pay to live in your own home is less than what you pay to rent, but it is not free. It is not zero. You still pay to live in your own home. You still pay to drive your car. And so when you put consumption assets or flow assets in your balance sheet, they give you a skewed view and you begin to become comfortable, and you should not be comfortable. I want to leave you uncomfortable in this session so that you actually build assets that are going to take care of you. Or if you say, I'm living in this home, but I know, and my plan is, when my children have grown up, and we will sell and move to another place and use the funds to be able to build assets to take care of me. That's fine. On that day, put it here. When you put a for sale sign on your house, put it in your balance sheet. But until that day, do not be comfortable. All right, at the bottom there, for illustrative purposes, we've gotten, just to say, if you're earning that 125,000, that means if you liquidated your assets, you could survive for 8 months. If you did your proposed budget of 100,000, then you could live longer on that, right? Just for the sake of it. Those are just for illustration at the bottom of the page. What I want to make sure is I have satisfied Philip and Peter, because they're the ones who have been most on my case around this, and Riyadh as well. Have I satisfied you with my answer? If I have not, switch on your mic. We have the argument now, because I want to make sure that there is clarity for us. Why? I didn't say they are not valuable. I didn't say you shouldn't own them. I just said I don't want you to be comfortable simply because you have your own home and your own car. That doesn't mean anything. What you need are assets that put money in your pocket. That is what your aim is. Riyadh, Philip, Peter, have I convinced you? Yes, Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, you have convinced me, but I still, I want, when I leave this session today, I want to start to think that I am rich. I need that assurance, because as I speak with you now, my account is zero, and I don't like it that. That's why when this session was done, I'm the first one who joined. I wanted to overcome that. Thank you. Back to you.
So, but Peter, I want you not just to say that I am rich, but to actually be. Would you like me to tell you, Peter, you're rich, and the truth is you are not rich? Would you like that, Peter?
No, that's why I am attending here. I want to be rich. Not
Good.
only to see.
Excellent. So how do we become rich? How do we get the money how do we become wealthy? I like to use that word instead of rich, is by having assets that put money in our pocket. That is wealth. Philip says he's pretty convinced. Okay, let me explain a little bit further. Okay, let me explain a little bit further. If I had, how much do you think this house on the right here? I think it looks like a nice house, looks like on a nice piece of land. In the chat box, how much do you think that house costs? You can use dollars, whatever currency it is. How much do you think it costs? The one on the right.
$15,000.
$15,000. Excellent. Wonderful. Thank you, Peter. So this house on the right is $15,000. If I live in it, 15,000 sounds a little, it's a bit more than, can I use $25,000 instead? Peter, if you don't mind, like Marielle has said, can I use that? Thank you. So let's say $25,000, okay? If I live in it, it actually costs me to live in my $25,000 house. Let's look at that. If I took the same $25,000 and I built small rental block like this, right? Small rental block. Each one of them, small, one-bedroom houses, or whatever it is that's there. Same amount, $25,000, $25,000. Okay. One puts money in my pocket, the other takes money out. And so what we're trying to say is, you need to focus more on the one that puts money in your pocket than the one that takes money out. And here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, if you've already built your house and you're living in it, praise the Lord, good for you, good. Now your greatest focus is to be building other assets that will pay you to live in that house. That's my aim. I do not want you to be comfortable saying, I have my house, I am okay. You are not. You are not. Marielle, you're putting marks in the chat box and I want to hear your voice. Do you mind switching on your mic and saying what you're saying? The aim is to have more assets than faucets. I'm not sure what those marks mean in the chat box, Marielle. Feel free to switch on your mic and say hi. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, any question or comment, we've gone back and forth about it here. Please note, I never said your car is a bad thing. I never said your house is a bad thing or that you shouldn't buy them. I have cars. I have a house. I am simply trying to say, don't put them in your balance sheet. Don't put them in your balance sheet because they will make you feel comfortable and you should not be comfortable. Just because you have your own home does not mean you are financially free. It does not. Having cash flow is what brings that in. Okay. So Jocelyn is saying, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Jocelyn is saying, if I have a car and I use it as a rental and it's bringing me money in my pocket, that's an asset, right? Almost, Jocelyn. Here's now the issue with that one. Because you're talking about, like, for instance, if it's like you have an Uber or, you know, any of these other apps, Bolt, whatever, that are there, Jocelyn, right? So almost. So here, if you have one of these, no problem, Marielle, I appreciate that. Keep typing. I'll read for you on your behalf. So, Jocelyn, in this scenario, the asset is not the car. The asset is your taxi business. Okay? So, if you only own the car, that's it, you can use the value of the car as a good measure. I will give you that. But it's even better if you went and talked to an accountant to help you value your taxi business. Because even the business owns that car and you own the business. That's what you want to put as the value there. But as a simple way of putting it there, if it is a car for rental and for taxi, whatever it is going to be, you can put the value there. I'll give you that. If it is putting money in your pocket. Okay, Jocelyn? So be very clear. If it is putting money in your pocket. Isaac is saying, this rental residential explanation, how to invest the 25K is mine. Okay, good. I'm glad. What I want you to begin to see is, if I own this house and I live in it, it takes money out of my pocket. Okay? And that's okay, but it takes less than probably the rent you're going to pay. But it still takes money out of my pocket. So I have to figure out, what do I own that is going to put money in my pocket? And so as a priority, if you have multiple things putting money in your pocket, whether you live in your own home or not doesn't matter. Does it really? Because if you have cash, right now, for example, those who are paying rent, you're living in a house. Why? Because you have what? Cash. Your salary pays you and you're able to pay rent. So if I had 10 apartments and houses and I have tenants in all of them and they are paying me, whether I live in my own home or not doesn't make a difference. I can pay rent and I'm fine. But isn't the ultimate aim of what we're talking about here, Isaac, to own both. Now that is wealth. I'm living in my own home, and at the same time, I have assets, government bonds, businesses, whatever other investments, rental properties that are paying me cash to live there. Now we're talking financial freedom, aren't we? Very good. So, any question on the balance sheet before? I need to mention this. Benjamin, you wanted to say something? Then we'll take Peter. Go ahead, Benjamin, first. Benjamin, Program Uganda. Would you like to say something before I take Peter's comment? Okay, Peter, go ahead.
Okay, now we are talking of house, but we have land. And land, we can use different things on land. I can plant trees, avocado, mango, jawapa, name them. And I can rear animals on the land. Well, how do you name that? How do you value those?
Here, do you not see it there? I will highlight it for you. Asset. There it is.
Yeah, I said we have a land. But
yes.
What about what value are we going to give? The trees I planted on the land, or the price of the land?
So there are professionals called valuers, okay, who can value your land, okay? Now, if it is just land, you can get a professional valuation for that land, Peter, okay? If it is just land. However, if you start a business, and that's what you're starting, when you plant, whatever you're planting, you're starting a farming business, then you can value that business differently depending on what you do with the land. But if it is just land, then get a professional to value it for you, and you'll get a good value for it. In fact, Peter, you have brought up the issue that I wanted to just highlight. All these numbers are current, the actual current amount. Let me explain. So this person probably borrowed 200,000 loan to buy a piece of land. So when the land was bought, it was worth 200. But right now, what is outstanding, what is left on the loan is only 100,000. Okay? So you put the current amount here, not what you're going to get, but what is current. Same, they bought that piece of land when it was 200,000, but they got a valuer to tell them the current value of that property today, and that current value has gone up to 400,000. So if they had done their balance sheet last year, then they would have had 200,000 outstanding loan or whenever they bought it, and 200 value, 0. So you see what a balance sheet does? It balances the number. The value of the property was 200, the loan was 200, so it was 0. They cancel each out. But now, over time, the value of that property has gone up to 400,000, and they have reduced their loan from 200,000 to 100,000. They have built their net worth by 300,000. So that's why this is a snapshot. You use your balance sheet once a year, and then you come back after another year and take another snapshot and look at the two together, and you're able to see your growth over time. So all these are current numbers. What is currently in your pension? That's what you put here, not what you get when you retire. What is currently there? What is currently in your savings? You put that today. And then you put it as a picture of where you are today. You come back after 1 year and take another picture of your current value, and you'll see how that works from there. Okay? Excellent. Any other questions before we move on from here? This will take a bit of time, ladies and gentlemen, to do your balance sheet, because you need to go and get information. You need to go and find out how much is my land worth, how much is in my pension, if I have a pension, how much is in my policies, what is the current outstanding amount on my loans. That's what you need to do. Okay? Any question, comment? Benjamin? Program Uganda, your mic is on. So I always sense like someone wants to say something when the mic is on. So no, so I'll mute at least for now. Okay, good. So let me go back to the comments just to see. Okay, so if I saying, correct me if I'm wrong, we have to put in the balance sheet is incomes, loans. In other way, what we receive as incomes and what we have to pay for. No. So Alpha, here we are putting values, not incomes. So Alpha, what do I mean by that? So let's say I had a rental property. I would put the rental property is worth, like this one we talked about here. The rental property, this one is worth $25,000. So in my balance sheet here, rental property, $25,000 is the value I'll put here. Now, the income or the cash it produces doesn't show up in your balance sheet, it shows up in your budget. So up at the top here, you're going to put rent, and then if it's $25,000, maybe it gives you rent of about maybe $800 a month. Okay, maybe around that amount. So here you put $800 for the income, but the value of the property, how much, if you sold that property to someone else, that shows up in your balance sheet. Alpha, have I responded effectively to your question? So value is captured in your balance sheet. Incomes or cash flows are captured in your budget. Those are two different documents. Alpha, go ahead. Yes, you want to say something? Your mic was on.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Good. Any other question? Marielle is saying, I think creating investments to put money in one's pocket supersedes building a family house. It is advisable to build family house after investments. Now, you can take that as a direction if you like. The key is to have income earning investments. That is the key. So whether you start off by building your family house and then build other investments, or you start by building investments and then have your family house, what makes you wealthy is when you have assets that put money in your pocket. So I'm not that quick, Marielle, to tell people don't build your house, because that might break their heart. I want you to own your house, but when you're in your own house, I don't want you to be comfortable, because the house takes money out of your pocket, and you need to have assets that put money in your pocket. So organize your wealth creation journey with that in mind. We've had people, why I say that is we've had people who build their house, and then they attend this class and they say, oh, all my children are in boarding school. It's just me and my wife who are in this house. If we rented this place, it will help us build 3 other apartments so that by the time we retire, we'll move back into this house and have 3 apartments that take care of us. So they move. I've seen that. So owning the house is not a bad thing. It's what you do with it. Good, 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 good. So tip number 3, please write it down. Focus on assets. Investment assets that put money in your pocket. Investments protect your money, they earn you income, and they gain in value over time. That's what you want to begin to do. So I'm going to invite I don't know if the wellness team is here to start preparing, because I'm going to take questions. Immediately after, I'll give some time for the wellness team to help you deal with the stress of Waithaka stealing your house, your car, making you track all your expenses. Oh my goodness, so heavy. How do you deal with that? So from the wellness team, you start preparing as I take questions and close this out, even as we get ready, okay? So your assignment, ladies and gentlemen, let's be very, very clear. Budget, spending tracker, balance sheet. This is all work that we're going to begin right now. We'll need feedback on your budgeting and tracking your expenses by next month, which is our next session, so that when we're dealing with debt, we have some information to deal, and with investments the month after that, okay? So please start that. The balance sheet may take a bit more time, but there's no problem. kindly, if you don't mind, please click on that link that is in the chat box. Just click on it. It'll open up a very short feedback form. We just need some very quick feedback from you that will help us to improve and to serve you better over time. So it's a very short one. It'll take you a couple of minutes just to finish up. Even as we close this, we've covered a lot of information this day. We talked about understanding wealth, understanding your tracking your expenses, paying yourself first as a principle. We talked about so many different things. And if there are any questions so far, I'd like to take them now. But remember, you have to start taking action steps. Start saving, start investing first so that you're able to achieve that specific goal that we are setting. We'll help you with the goal setting, we'll help you with that. But right now, it is to start doing your budget, start tracking your expenses, because if we don't get that right, doesn't matter how much we talk about shares, how much we talk about land, how much we talk about derivatives, how much we talk about cryptocurrency, doesn't matter because you don't have the cash to invest. So this is where the work begins. All right. So please click on it. Click on that link. Everybody, just go to the chat box. Everybody, click on that link. Just give us some quick feedback. Everybody. I've seen just 3, that's 6 of us have clicked on it. I need everybody. We are all 48 of us to please, everybody needs to click on it and give us some feedback so we can improve and prepare better for you the next time. Everybody, that's a better response. Thank you. Thank you so much. Everybody who's clicking on that link, just a very quick feedback form. We're almost there. Come on, guys, everybody. As you're doing that, I will take any questions you have before I hand over to the wellness team who want to speak to that. Jeffrey, go ahead.
Yes. Hi, Waithaka. How are you?
Hi.
Yes, thank you very much for the wonderful session. Unfortunately, today we don't have a representative from the wellness team, but they'll be available in subsequent sessions. There was a mix-up in the invitation, so they missed out on today's session.
Okay, there's no problem.
Okay.
I'm willing to
Thank
take
you.
questions on any of the topics that we've discussed today. If anything was unclear, but guys, it's about taking action now. Because when we come and talk about debt, if we have not taken these actions, it'll be difficult to deal with. When we talk about investments, if we've not done this, it's going to be tough. Oh, we are almost at maximum on the feedback. Please make sure you clicked on the feedback and go ahead. Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, because I received the email late and I joined you almost in the second session. The first session completely I missed. The recording, how am I going to find it?
You don't even have to worry about a recording. Jeffrey, we are doing this same training tomorrow as well. And
Yes.
what? Yes. So in case you may have missed, you're more than welcome to join exactly this same training tomorrow. So just reach out to Jeffrey. Jeffrey, maybe you can give your email address so they can receive that invite and join that other group.
Okay. So I'll share my email address on chat and you can reach out to me if you need any assistance or support.
Thank you.
So Peter will be doing this same class tomorrow morning. You're welcome to join in, okay?
I will be there.
You'll receive all the notes and the tools that we've talked about here. The notes have so much more information even as we go through. So that one you're going to see. Yes, you will receive that. You're going to receive an Excel sheet that will help you with all these different ones. You will receive, and the notes. If you noticed during the session, I was using some notes. This is part of the document that you're going to receive that has so many different, it has articles, it has explanation on expenses, it has so much information that will assist you to do that. Okay, good. Great. I think we are at almost maximum. Yeah, pretty much almost everybody. If you haven't, I think there are 2 or 3 who've not yet clicked on the feedback form. The 2 or 3 of you who have not, please click on that form, give us some feedback. it would be very useful. Isaac, excellent. Thanks a million to you for listening. We really appreciate that as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we're done for today's session. In case you missed anything, you're welcome. I believe Jeffrey, as he's put his email address there, can assist you. In case you missed, you're welcome to join some of the other groups who'll be going through exactly the same training so that you don't miss out at all. Well done for showing up here. Hey, that's almost 3 hours of your day. Could you imagine we talk about money for 3 hours? And excellent, Emily. Got you thinking? I've done my job. Now we come back next month and talk about debt. The month, you're going to have a wonderful, wonderful time. Any questions around the scheduling, just forward them to Jeffrey.Mbuchi@wfp.org, and he'll assist you with that. Okay? Sega, I love my job, so I have to give it all I have for your sake, guys. All right? So have a wonderful week. Begin the work now. You'll receive all these notes and also the tools, but start training and, start tracking now, start doing the budget now, so we have a better discussion in the days to come. God bless, guys. Take care.